All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest edition of the Experience series, where we talk to industry leaders about their personal journeys and the insights that can only be garnered from lived experience. The Experience series is brought to you by The Hive and Hive Life magazine. I am Shailene, and today I will be speaking with Charlz Ng, a wellness entrepreneur with many ventures and has quite an interesting story to tell. So let's start with a little introduction. For those of you who don't know, Charlz is the founder of the events agency Hybrid Group. He is also behind Iris Your Escape, Hong Kong's largest fitness and wellness festival, Spartan Race Hong Kong, which is many people's favorite, and of course, House of Fitness, a high intensity boutique studio, which is actually just a stone's throw away from one of our Hive locations. And last but not least, you're also on the board of directors for Gay Games Hong Kong 2022. Like I said, many ventures. How are you, Charlz? How has this crazy year been for you?
It's been amazing.
Yeah.
Can't ask for a better year than this.
Yeah, I did. I know it presents a lot of opportunity to adapt and challenge, which is always an interesting one. We are so glad to have you on. Honestly, to those watching, we'll be holding a little Q&A session right after the interview portion of this evening. So if you want to get involved in the conversation, please head over to the Experience Series Facebook page and leave your questions in the comments section below. So Charlz, when we put it out there that you would be coming onto the Experience Series, we immediately had a lot of interest come in. And I think it's because obviously your name is associated with so many cool things happening in the fitness and wellness space in Hong Kong. And, I think what people want to know is A, how do you do it? Because you just have so many fingers in so many different pots. And of course, how it all began. So let's dive right in, Charlz. Could you tell us how it all began? Like, how did you get into a career in events? Because I'm sure it's vastly different from how things are now. How'd you get started?
Yeah, of course. The passion really from events started when I was really young, when I was in high school. So I like to organize school competition. I was the music competition, inter-house music competition kind of organizer. I like doing charity gigs. I love, right?
Yeah.
I was young, and the experience of getting people together was actually really satisfying. When I was young. So in university, I was kind of the go-to person when people want to organize social gathering. I organized Christmas ice skating event, weekend cinema outgoings. So when people want to go party or do something, and when they don't want to organize and call everyone together, they say, Charles, can you do it? I was like, yeah, sure. I just blast out on WhatsApp. But I wasn't really, my first couple of jobs, I would say, it's not really in the event fields. And I'm a graduate from the London School of Economics. So naturally, I actually first applied to the management consultancy, banks, HSBC. But after about 2 months of job hunting, sending CV, job interview, I actually ended up at Hollister when Hollister first opened its store in Hong Kong. Because I thought, well, I'm not in a rush and I just got back to Hong Kong. So I want to meet people kind of my age to hang out. What's the rush, right? But obviously that didn't really last long. But back in 2014, my friend Tiffany and I had a passion, and we loved going to festivals. We loved electronic music at the time. So back in 2014, that's when the first event business actually was created, and that was when I first started organizing parties, events. Yeah.
Right. So how did that transition into entrepreneurship? Because now, you co-founded Hybrid Group, which is obviously a huge events agency. So could you tell
Yeah.
us a little about that transition?
Yeah, sure. So Hybrid at first was a entertainment event and talent agency.
Right.
So what we did was we put on outdoor and indoor events, and we kind of toured DJs and around Asia. But it was natural because everything that we do was involving bringing people from overseas to come to Hong Kong and then throw a party. But very not for very long, we noticed that we are not really capable in sustaining our business model. And then one of our competitor, my current partner, Gary, said, you know what, Charles, you actually are great at bringing people here, but we know the business well on how to actually make it a business opportunity. So he brought on his team. So together we combined and formed Hybrid Group at 2014. Yeah.
Wow. And here you are. I mean, since then you've also started Iris and all these things, and now you're quite a well-known and respected figure in the wellness community here. So why make that transition? You know, I mean, like, I'm sure it would have been a crazy fun time, just sort of like getting together and partying all the time and meeting new people. So what was the catalyst for that move into a different industry within events?
Um, if you want to know the truth
Always.
is, yeah, always, we weren't making money.
Right.
It was expensive. We weren't making enough to really kind of sustain. The business doesn't have a sustainability in the model. So we thought, let's do something else, right? And at that time, the trend of yoga, fitness, and wellness was on the rise. We tried to do a couple things, but we thought, hey, why don't we try and do something like that, which is a complete, switch of spectrum and see what happens. And we probably use a tenth of our usual effort to sell out our first event. And we thought, something was right. Yeah. And I thought, okay, why don't we do it another one? And
So what was that like? Like, what did it consist of in terms of?
that was actually the very first Iris. So the first Iris, we did it in Discovery Bay in 2015.
Right.
So as per our old business model, we were ticketing. We sell tickets to generate our revenue, right, in the event industry. So we were selling out before wellness. We were selling tickets to parties between $380 to $580, and giving our heart and soul and going out and talking to people, we may be able to sell, say, 50 tickets for a night,
Right.
Which is not really a lot of money. We put out a yoga event with 5 different yoga classes. I think at the time it was 280 or 220. And you can go attend all 4 classes at the Discovery Bay. We sold out between, I think, 2 weeks at that capacity. And that was about 80 people.
Wow.
So we thought, if the demand is there, and if the marketing message is right, like, why don't we do something a little bit bigger? So it took us only about 2 months to really launch our first official wellness festival at the central venue.
Yeah.
Harbourfront. And with 2 months, we spread words online for our friends and family. We had 1,600 people attended the next one. And once you kind of got there, you thought, well, I'm not going back to where I was, right? From now on, it's only forward. So let's just, push on.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Would you say that, when you were in the nightlife event side of things, were you already did you already adapt sort of like wellness into your life? Or was that something that like your career sort of put you in that direction and then you went along with it?
Yeah, I would say that. I wasn't the most healthiest. Being in nightlife, your work hour basically starts at about 8 p.m. and you finish at about 6 a.m. after clearing up. Most of the time, you probably aren't completely sober, and you're always drinking with clients, with friends, and with your DJ. So, that lifestyle wasn't also very sustainable. And therefore, when I can say if people come up to me and say, hey, Iris changed my life, and say, Iris, I've done so much in my life, I'll go back to them. Yeah, Iris changed mine. It's probably my life is probably the first life that it has changed. It's something that I did that unexpectedly turn out to shape who I am today.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I remember when I interviewed you for for the Hive Life article when we initially spoke. You mentioned one thing about the events industry in nightlife, which is that it was a little bit harder to connect with people
Mm.
genuinely. So could you kind of comment on I guess what the wellness community, how that sort of contrasts to the nightlife events industry?
Sure. I think in the wellness industry, people are naturally more kind-hearted.
Mm.
They're more willing to collaborate. There's always something that people want to do and do better. We want to work together towards a greater goal. Whereas before in nightlife, I can't, I don't find that feeling. I'm always worrying. I'm looking behind my back, thinking, did I do something wrong? Is he trying to trick me? What's, you know, this can't be right. What's the trick, right? But being in the wellness industry has opened my eyes into thinking, well, there are genuine people in this world really wanting to help you without asking for return, and I I I was just very happy that I got into it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. I mean, it's been a very interesting journey that you've gone down. So, when it comes to events, you've experienced two sort of extremes in terms of the types of events. So, what would you say are the skills that you've needed and are transferable, regardless of what industry it is? So, whether that's fitness or nightlife.
Um, it's a very interesting question, right? I I think event as a profession is also mostly project management.
Right.
So what I would say is being organized uh, is very important. Uh, you have always got to manage deadlines,
Mm,
arrange the right things at the right place at the right time. You got to be self motivated, and you got to be efficient.
right.
Um, and these are some of the most important traits. I think if you're in the event life, and you got to be able to manage stress. Forbes actually named um, that event manager is the fifth most stressful job in the world, or
I
just
believe it.
job nature in the world.
Yeah.
The first four was, if I can remember correctly, in no particular order: um, pilot,
Oh,
um, policeman,
yeah.
fireman, and I think it was surgeon.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember reading this, and I was like, wow, I can't believe why event is so or is the fifth. And the common and an event, it's the only event job nature that doesn't actually involve a human life at risk.
Right.
Yeah. Um, so it is a very stressful job. So if you're not self-motivated, if you don't really know what you want, you might not enjoy it. But most importantly, as I also tell my staff and my friends, I think you need common sense.
Yeah.
Um, Common sense is the biggest thing that you need. If you don't have it, if event may not be for you.
Yeah. And I think that's an interesting thing to clarify because I think a lot of people, at least, the people that I went to school with, it's like we come out and we're like, I wonder what we're going to do with our careers. And a lot of people were like, oh, I think I'm going to go into events because it looks like a lot of fun. And there's no doubt that it is, but clearly Forbes knows what they're talking about. It's no walk in the park. I do believe that.
I would say this though.
Yeah.
If say your friend really wants to try, um, this is one thing that considering the top four thing, you can't just try to be a pilot or try to be a surgeon. You don't hesitate to try and test the water, because you are going to find out very soon if you don't like it. It's not something that if you sat in the office and think, oh, I really hate it, but I'm going to do it for the rest of my life. It is something that you will know very soon, and if you don't like it, then make a change. It's kind of easy to But otherwise, if you do like it, you might be in it for a very long time. I've been in events for 6, 7 years now.
Yeah, and you started in economics, so that's really
Yeah,
interesting. Yeah, that's
yeah,
amazing. So now, as I listed earlier, you have a lot of exciting endeavors that you're a part of. I think the obvious question is, where do you find the drive to take on so much? Like, what is the purpose that drives you when it comes to doing these big and bold things in your career?
yeah. Well, self-motivation, right? Like I said, but I I'm a person that I believe that everything you do in life, there's always an intention behind it. So I just need to find the right intention and whether I think that intention is aligned with my own value. So my intention is to really bring positive impact and to influence people around me. I believe that humans are really best motivated by our significance on other people. Um, if I can help you by just chatting with you for 10 minutes, I think, I'm motivated to chat with you for another 10 or chat to other people as well. So this is why I love working. This is why I feel great about the work that I do. And with hybrid, the projects that I do under hybrid, um, they're mostly fitness and wellness projects. So my motivating factor is that these are all experiential events that I can exert a positive influence by whether it is from doing yoga, whether it's giving a chat, giving a talk, or doing fitness, etc.
Right.
Um, with House of Fitness, I think House of Fitness is a gym. It's a group, is a boutique group class gym, which, by the way, 10 seconds advertising time. If you haven't been, come by, free trial on us. Back to this. No, but gym is a gym, right? It's quite self-explanatory. We are already helping people with the moment that they're stepping through the door. So what reason is there not to love? With the gay games, though, however, gay games, it's really a personal passion project. So maybe let me explain what the game is quickly.
Absolutely.
Yeah. The game is the world's largest LGBT sports and cultural event with 36 sports across 9 days. So we expect around 12,000 participants and 75,000 spectators from worldwide. So does it sound similar, to you? Yeah, it is like the Olympic Games, and it pretty much is. It happens once every 4 years. So the last one was in Paris. The one before it was in Cologne. But why do I volunteer? By the way, everyone on that team is a volunteer. Some people work 4 hours a week. Some people works 40, but no one gets paid. So this one, it is really a personal passion project because Hong Kong doesn't really have a lot of space or safe havens, if you may, for our community to connect and find acceptance. So when people gather, it's usually about party, glitter, drag queens, and while these are all important parts of our community, right? I feel that could be more, but there is no true means of an inclusion between the straight allies and us. So with what gay game stands for, the core principles are participation, inclusion, and personal best. So it brings together from all over the world with diversity, respect, and equality, and just is about sharing. So when I was introduced to it, this was a once in a lifetime opportunity where I can really apply what I do best, which is organizing events, connecting people together to create that impact I've always wanted to create. And I want to share my story, tell people who I am, what it means to me, tell those who are out there who are struggling to know or who are afraid to come out to know that they're not alone. There are tons more people like you out there. And that's kind of where or why I find time when I don't have time for the day.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's amazing. When we first chatted again for the Hive Life article, I think that you told me that you went and sought out to be a volunteer for gay games, right? Like
Yeah.
you found out about them online, then you reached out. Can you tell me a little bit about that story? Because I feel like it's the perfect manifestation of the kind of go-getter you are.
Yeah. So I actually saw someone posting a status on Facebook say, "Oh, we are gathering a team of people to bid for the Gay Games Hong Kong, for the Gay Games to come to Hong Kong." So I thought, what is it? Let me just click on it and find out more, right? And then it was just a short, brief description of how it's a sports and culture event. They're looking for someone in events and marketing field to really come in and contribute and to help organize or to help plan to win the bid. So the bid book is a 300 pages long, basically strategic plan to show the Federation of Gay Games of why Hong Kong is worthy to be a winner. And then so I thought, yeah, sure. I mean, I have tons of time. That was 2016, right? So I thought, yeah, I am definitely interested. So met the guy up for a coffee, had a chat, but it was quite a very early on chat. So it wasn't until after 3 and 4 meetings and that I actually meet a group of people, then I realized, oh God, it's a lot bigger than I thought. It wasn't a let's organize a run in the park next week. It was that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was the equivalent of the Olympics that you guys were pitching for. Oh, that's amazing. So, bring it back to before, obviously, I want to touch on the gay games again later for sure. That's
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
amazing. But I wanted to ask you, when it comes to the wellness industry, you said that, amongst one thing that it taught you, which is that people are good. There are good people in business. What would you say the wellness industry has taught you about business other than
that? Really about collaboration. And it sounds so cliche, but it taught me about trusting the right people or trusting people. Like I can't even believe, or I don't even see it until I'm actually saying it out loud. But if you come to me in 2014 and say, hey, I want to work with you on this, the first thing I would be, nah, you want something else from me now, jog on.
Yeah.
Don't talk to me, right? But right now when someone said they want to work with us and they say, yeah, sure. I'm going to start with that first. I don't know what you want, but I'm going to say, yeah, sure. And then I will listen to you. I'm a listener. I want to listen to what you have to say. It's about giving people that chance of expressing what they want. And then you can then evaluate whether it is the right thing for you, if you have time for it, if you have the resource to make it even better. But because I'm doing it because everywhere I go, when I say, hey, can I talk to you about Iris? It's a community in wellness. Can I talk to you about an obstacle race I'm working on? People actually gave me a chance to talk to them. And that's why I love the industry. It's like literally saving humanity. Everyone has a role and we are stronger together. Ooh, I just cringe saying that, but it's real. It's so real. It's true. Yeah.
So you feel like you found your tribe in the wellness community.
Yeah, and I can't say I am I'm a very spiritual person, but I know how to communicate with them.
Yeah.
Whereas if there are some people I can think of in the past that I don't think I would ever be friends with them. But now I'm really enjoying the lesson, the talk, the conversation, and I think it's very it's just very educating and comforting.
Yeah. So obviously we've talked about how the transition into the wellness industry has obviously suited you very well. Is there anything about the wellness industry in Hong Kong that you think has room for improvement, would you say? Or maybe something that you'd like to sort of expand and develop over time?
I mean, I think Hong Kong or even Asia in general, it's a little bit slower than in the West in terms of our adaptation, in terms of our or what is available to the market. Hong Kong is a very unique, is in a very unique position as well, that everything comes at a cost.
Yeah.
If there is one thing to improve, I don't know how, I don't have the solution, otherwise I would have done it already. It would be lowering the barrier of entry for anything that is wellness related. Start with being vegetarian or being vegan. It almost is like, well, don't, if you're not prepared to pay an extra $20 on vegetables, don't try. You know, it's a bit of a pity, you know, in that way.
That's absolutely true. I mean, I remember actually when we spoke again, our first conversation, you were talking about the role that, again, bringing it back to gay games, the role that gay games played in your personal life. So, could you talk a little bit about how that affected your character development in life and in business?
Um, I think in, in terms of how gay games in particular has kind of changed my character, uh, it even helped me came out to my family and parents. Well, my first thought was, if I can't even tell them that I'm working on the biggest project on this planet that I can even touch, you know, and touch on, and to affect the amount of people who I'm going to impact, and who am I to be on the team. Uh, so, so that's my very first, I think, first step. I came out, I think, 2 years ago, around 2 years ago. Yeah, when I really first joined, when I was in the middle of organizing the gay games.
Right.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I think that it makes me more open. It makes me want to talk about it more. It makes me stand up for people who may have misunderstanding. Usually I would just sit in the side and be like, no, let them talk, it's fine. I don't need to educate them. But now I was like, nah, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I obviously I follow you on Instagram, and you have quite a great social media following and social media presence. And I just love how authentic you are. I think it's really cool that, like, when I go to your page, it's obvious to see, not only what you do in business, but just the values that you hold in terms of being honest and open, and then that manifesting in your work. I think that's what anyone in business would sort of aim to be. So that I think that's really cool. So speaking about Iris, I wanted to ask you. Obviously, you guys had plans to expand in the last year. So how have you had to adapt in terms of those plans?
Um, well, we were going to go abroad, but everything has to stop. It was actually the plan was actually to go abroad in April, where this was actually when the second wave came in. Um, but what we had to do is, what we can't do, I would say, is to really do nothing.
Yeah.
We can't just say, oh, because the world has stopped, we just need to stop and reboot when it is happening
Right.
again.
Yeah.
So is that, so what we did was, um, although we're not going to make money, we created something with our community, with our fellow teachers, with our gym studios, just to see if we can mobilize our community to go around the entire Hong Kong to see different tutors, to see different gyms, to bring them more business, foot traffic, and continue to do some community classes on the road. So what we did was we kept it very, very minimal. We tried to not do something so complicated. So we only charge $100 a class, and with the $100, we split half with the teachers, who at the time were basically has no income, and there was no subsidy from the government at all. It's not going to buy them 2 weeks of food, but at least it's something. Hopefully, it means something, and it also gives them that motivation that if someone is able to help you or to help to do that for you, you should be able to go out and kill it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think it's really cool how you guys have adapted because I remember you saying that there's so much potential in this year that especially with collaborations and online. You were saying how like this has presented you an opportunity for you to like really push yourself in terms of
Yeah.
like how far you can reach out to people and stuff like that. So, what would you say is next for you in terms of the wellness trends that you might predict that are up and coming? What's next for you?
Uh, what's next? Uh, what's first? No. I think that honestly, I'm not planning too far ahead
Right.
right now. Uh, I Well, let me tell you a side story. So in 2019, at the end of 2019, right, the protest has hit Hong Kong quite hard.
Yeah.
Being an event, of course, it was already hugely disrupted at the time.
Right.
Um, so we actually spent about 3 to 4 months in 2019 towards the end of it to do exactly what you said. What's next in 2020? How do we recover and how do we come back from it? We made about 4, 5 business plans, line up with all our sponsors, partners, literally ready to go with our first event on the 29th of February.
Right.
That was Batman Night Run. And then we have a series of 6 events that we were going to launch with the cruise company, Dream Cruise. And obviously, when COVID hit and when Diamond Princess, has the outbreak, everything kind of put an end to a stop. So what's next is for me is to really stay put, keep what I'm currently doing and try to maintain a healthy balance between those first, because I'm doing quite a lot, as you have said.
Yeah.
And then see what happens, and then continue to really adapt. We do have a lot of things that we were going to launch in 2020, but didn't do it successfully. So those are here whenever we are ready to bring it on again.
Yeah. It's just on pause right now,
Yeah,
but
of
we'll
course. Moving slower, not even
yeah,
on pause. We're moving slower than what we
for
usually
sure.
would be. Yeah.
Absolutely. Just to remind everyone who is watching, for those of you who are tuning in, please be reminded that if you have any questions, you can leave them on the Experience Series Facebook page because we will be moving on to the Q&A session quite soon. So I actually just wanted to chat to you about Iris because I have actually never been. So I remember when I was looking at the photos and stuff, I was looking at just everything. The way I described it in my article, I believe, was it looks like sort of like a playground for adults, where like you just get to move and interact with people. So could you actually talk a little bit about how you planned the entire concept? I think it's very interesting.
That's industry confidentiality. No, we're all about openness. So at first, how maybe I can share a little bit on the history of Iris. So
Yeah.
Iris started off as a yoga festival. So we only have one stage, which is a yoga stage. The next one that came along was the Zen garden, actually, taking account for the spiritual, with guided meditation, with sound therapy. That actually received very overwhelmingly great support. And then the next one was a fit district. So it was all things fitness, different types of more cardio-based activity. And then we thought, should we stop there or should we not? And then we thought, when we run our event, all these stages are still packed throughout the day, right? Even in the morning ones. So we thought, okay, we can't really increase capacity of the class, so let's continue adding more stages. So and then the next one was the playground and the silent disco, and then last year we added Insider, which is a talk panel and workshop area. Yeah. So it, why we the reason why we introduce all these different dimension of wellness, from physical wellness to relationship to social to mental wellness, is because I think everyone, when they step into Iris, they have their own blank canvas or they have their own objective. Everyone has their own goal. I want to be more social. I want to be better at this. I want to be more stretchy. I want to start getting into yoga. I just want to hang out. You know, I'm bored of cinema. I'm bored of shopping malls. You know, everyone has a different expectation. So through the different experience that we kind of line up, we want to make sure that this is one place where it's the parking shop of wellness for a weekend, where you can really find everything that you want. And it's only via doing that you're gonna think, I want to come back and do this next time, because I haven't had time to do it last time, but this time I'm gonna bring 3 more people with me doing it. We also have a huge marketplace, so this is where brands can come in and really do selling, to do whatever they want, and because they all give out so many freebies, so much freebies, people actually like to shop around just to try this and that, and this is why we do it over and over again, because no one has ever walked out, and I don't think I've ever received a complaint from anyone, except that one time we had to postpone because of heavy rain. But that was, you know, that was usual.
So I actually wanted to ask, I mean, what is the difference that you noticed in terms of, you know, you said that it's a lot easier to collaborate in the wellness industry. So as Iris started to grow, did you find that a lot of the collaborations that you had, were they coming to you, or did you seek them out? Because I mean, it started with the yoga and then it just blew up. So how did you develop those relationships, and what advice would you give to those who want to do the same?
It's still a standard business day-to-day activity. You still go and talk to people, you still outreach, you still pick up your phone and call them, hey, I have this plan for you. But instead of saying, hey, I have this great insurance plan, or I have this fund that you can invest in, I say, hey, we are a 25, 30,000 community of wellness advocates. Are you interested in working with us? But I have to say, a lot of people out there are still not aware of what Iris is. We still got a great long way to go into making it a household brand. We have only really touched the tip of an iceberg. The people who know would know because they have been, but there are a lot of, you know, if we're talking about 6,000 people on a weekend, we are only touching 1% of Hong Kong population. That way. So every day is still a hassle. We still want to see how we can localize our festival in order for more people to really learn about us. So it's not that what we do is different. It's just that the way we do things, or our key messages, may be a little bit different to how others do things.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting that it seems like the value that you hold quite dearly, that is quite obvious in the pursuits that you have, is just accessibility for people. So with Gay Games, it's the fact that you want people to be included and to feel like they have a place. And with Iris, it's the same. So I think that that's amazing. So actually, I think we have some questions coming in now. But before we close this off, I just wanted to ask, just in case nobody else asks this, do you have any advice out there for someone who is looking to pursue a career in wellness, specifically in events? Maybe like 3 of your top tips that you wish you knew when you were starting out.
Um, Top tips. I'm gonna start with probably saying that if you are only considering, then just don't consider. If you have a passion in it, go do it, because the wellness economy worldwide is $4.5 trillion, and it represents 5.3% of our global economic output. Is massive and is already double in 2 years from 2 years before. Um, so I think in terms of tips and it is still your standard when you go standard job application, right? But I think having a passion, and if you already live some certain aspects of it, it would help you uh, by a mile, because you're already passionate, or you love doing what you do. And that, to be honest, also goes to anything else. If you do love drinking wine, then of course you would probably be good in the wine industry. So if you want to do something in wellness, don't do it because it's cool, because everyone is doing it, because my sister and my BFF does yoga, I want to sell yoga mats. That probably won't work. You have got to really understand the value or why you love it. Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, so I think we're coming to the end of our interview portion of this evening. We also have quite a few questions coming in. So for those of you who are watching right now, whether on Facebook Live or on Zoom, please get your questions in the comment section on the Experience series right now, and we'll hopefully get them in. So let's go ahead and get started. The first question is from Cherry. So I think this is on everyone's minds. What's your view on the event industry in 2021? That's a heavy one. What do you think?
On the industry. Okay. First of all, I think the view would be to talk about what they haven't done in 2020, like myself.
Yeah.
But I think 2021 would be a lot on about safety and prevention. It was actually a trend in the past, but at the moment, COVID is so, is been in everyone's mind, where if you go out, you already think about, oh, am I gonna catch this and that? So I think especially for the event industry, is really about safety, social distancing. How are you mitigating the risk of people gathering all together and creating another outbreak? A lot of brands, I would imagine, would start to talking about prevention. How do you prevent this, prevent that, from even physically intaking something to spraying something in your hands, or doing particular behavior to avoid doing something. So I think avoidance, preventions are the two big words in
Definitely.
2021.
Yeah, and I also remember you mentioning that you predict that the sort of online and on-site events is gonna meld together to become something even bigger. So I think that's also a very exciting prospect. Right?
I think people in Hong Kong in general, though, they're not going to show any hesitance in attending large-scale events again. Yeah. Maybe not now, but they will come back out. Like, look at how many people were in Soho on Peel Street. Look at how many people were on the beach. People were dying to go out. So it is not really about. I think as an event organizer, I'm not worried that my events are not going to be popular. It's finding the right timing, and finding the right message for people to want to come out. Safety and security measure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. So moving on to the other impact that COVID is having. So we have another question. COVID is worsening mental health for many. Do you think your business ventures and network could help motivate people in the masses who are struggling, i.e. unemployment, depression, boredom?
Great. I think great question. We're dealing with it internally with our staff, right? As a leader, we try to not basically make the life worse to start with. if they are going to be unemployed, don't tell them 3 months in advance and say, hey, by the way, you're going to lose your job in 3 months. But in general, I think being able to talk openly about it. For example, 2020 for me, I don't think it has done more of a mental challenge for me. So maybe sharing a bit of my personal experience, like I came out of a relationship on the 1st of January. And then COVID hits, business got hit really hard. We had to cancel a lot of our events. And then when we were about to launch, Wave 2 came in. So another plan, they all fell apart. And then my grandma sadly passed away a month and a bit ago. But when all of the factors all come together, it's got me into thinking, if is anything worse going to happen to me, right? Every time when something bad happens, I thought it's got to be the end of it. I'm at the bottom of it, and from here I'm going to rebound and do better. But every step of the way, I think that there is a lesson always learned, and that, well, Charles, that wasn't the worst of it. Something can happen again. But how I dealt with it is there are a couple of phases of grief and getting out of miserable world, right? And I think this is where your friends, you come in. This is where when you talk to people, even though if you're not addressing your own issue, I think talking about other people's issue, you will always find a solution for yourself. A lot of the times when you're upset or when you're bored or when you are depressed, you know why you are upset or depressed. You just don't want to face it. You don't want to accept it. But when someone else is doing it and in the same boat, and I think naturally you probably don't want to just sit down with him or her to both moan about the world. Naturally, you would want to support the other person, right? Like I said, I think human is all about supporting others. By supporting and by giving out advice, you basically were talking to yourself. So there's this one saying that I always carry with me, and that is, a problem told is half the problem solved.
I love that. No, I've never heard of that, but that's brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting because when we first hopped on this call, before we went live or anyone was in this room, I was like, "How are you?" And you were just like, "I'm great." And to come to find out that you've been through a lot this year. And I think it's pretty telling. Like, imagine if you stayed in the nightlife events industry. You might not have the same tools that you have now to cope and to deal and to also create opportunities for other people the way that you are with Iris and with Gay Games. So it's never for nothing, right?
Never. I honestly, I think you are absolutely spot on. If I were doing parties and drinking, I think what I would be doing now is be holding a bottle of vodka and be like, hate you 2020, and
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not going to deal with any of my problems. I'm just going to drink it away. But yeah, no, I think that's brilliantly put. All right, so our next question is about your entrepreneurial spirit. So, how do you feel your entrepreneurial spirit came out within your project with Iris? Did it come naturally to you in your character, or did you have to sort of seek it out?
well, I think it really depends on how you see the word entrepreneurial spirit, right? I think it's such a glorified term.
That's
Where
true.
if you think about it, if you are waking up and you are an entrepreneur, what are you doing differently than a non-entrepreneur person?
Hmm.
I don't think it is about the spirit that I don't think it is about whether I am an entrepreneur or not. It is about identifying what really motivate you to wake up to and what are your kind of objectives of the day. Because if I think about I'm an entrepreneur, I wake up, it doesn't pay my bill, it doesn't feed me, I'm still poor. By the way, entrepreneur is known as well, probably one of the poorest people in the world.
Yeah. But they're poor until they're not, right? It's
Yeah,
like
yeah. So that's why I think is a very, very overrated term.
yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I see what you mean. So when it comes to like how this is my question, okay, because I'm wondering this.
Yeah.
When it comes to how you divide your time with, planning Iris, overseeing House of Fitness, and then obviously when Spartan Race was happening, you have all these different avenues. Like, do you have a trick to like manage your time, or are you wired that way? How do you deal with that?
Um, so time management
Yeah.
tool, basically what you're asking me, right?
Yeah.
So
Give me
I
your
think,
dreams. I want to
yeah,
know.
I think luckily, going back to what I said earlier, if you are in this industry, now you have to be organized, self-motivated, and kind of driven, right?
Yeah.
For me, for example, my weekend is usually working on my gay game stuff. Gay games always also have a pretty good hierarchy of structure where um, they meet once every 2 weeks. Yeah, it's not a face-to-face meeting, but we have calls to really catch up and making sure people are aligned, and is knowing that in 2 weeks time you have something to present to the team, and by the time if you don't have something, you're going to find time somewhere. You're not going to say it's fine, I'm just going to say whatever, right? So it's that sense of urgency.
Accountable, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for me, it's also a lot of things I have finally I'm able to not to do everything by myself. So I have a fantastic team at Hybrid who can support me in a lot of things where, if I'm going to speak to a sponsor, I don't need to manage with them 24/7. If I need to write a proposal, my amazing colleagues can take the lead and probably do better than me now. So yeah, I'm pretty much just sipping coffee every day.
You're chilling. It's the entrepreneurial life. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so actually, we have one more question. And they say, Jingmin says, bear with me if you might have addressed this earlier. I don't think you have. But do you think you had to prepare yourself? Like, I think your first entrepreneurial pursuit was hybrid, right? So looking back on that time, how much did you have to prepare to set up your own company? Was it was it just like, okay, we're going to start with a few events, but like what did it actually take to establish it as a legitimate events agency?
Hmm. Okay. Um, it's First of all, I think you really have to think about a couple of things. I would say three things that immediately came to my mind are your concept.
Yeah.
It's really about what you're trying to achieve, um, and don't. And a common mistake that I hear a lot about people is I want to do something, and therefore I'm going to start a company, instead of I think this can solve a particular problem.
Mm.
Right? I think that really defines starting a company is so easy in Hong Kong, but that would define whether you can last in the long run. So that's number one is what do you think you're solving? What problem do you think you're solving, or what you're trying to do, your concept? And the second thing is uh, the structure.
Mm.
Uh, is Do you want to do it by yourself? Do you want to do it with a partner? Do you want to do it with multiple partners? Obviously, I'm not going to go into the pros and cons for each, but um, you have to be careful, because once you start it with by yourself, maybe it's easy to get a partner, but once you start it with four people, say for example, you're not going to say, sorry, 2 months later, I don't want to work with you anymore, right? It's a bit like having a housemate.
Yeah.
And the third thing is really the finance. is how much things are going to cost.
Yeah.
And usually, because especially if you're starting something that you have never done in your life before, this is already a red flag. Do you really know this industry enough? A lot of people actually came from a corporate background and they're starting their own business and therefore have experience and learning and taking all these the lessons that cost that company something, not themselves. I don't have that. I actually, there's something I think I did an interview on that with someone else before, and someone asked me what would be a regret right now in your life, and my regret is I my only regret, or I wouldn't say regret, but if I could turn back time, I would do this one thing, and that is to pick up more experience before just diving in and doing it because I love it. Because you can do it because you love it, but doing it when you have experience would help you achieve things a lot faster and cheaper.
Right. Cheaper. I love how you said that. You're like
Cheaper.
cheaper.
Yeah.
You're saying that out of experience.
Oh God, I think I could have, with the money that I spent on absolute God knows where for losing those money, I think I can start another business. Really.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Damn. That's honest. I love that. That's exactly why I was so excited to have you on tonight. Okay, so I think we have time for one more question, which is
Yeah.
perfect. We have from Stephanie. What's your view on socially distanced wellness events?
Hi, Stephanie. What's my view on socially distanced wellness event? I'm trying to understand in my head what would a socially distanced wellness event, how would it look like in my head? I think whatever event that anyone do, wellness or not, it would already be a socially distanced event. We're not going to go back, or we may, but not next month or two, to go back to, cock and flap where people are squeezing like sardines.
Yeah.
But in fact, people actually may find greater comfort into attending. They don't have to squeeze with people. Everyone actually will queue. There's order. There are unwritten rules. It may even revolutionize the whole entire event industry on how things would now move forward.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, people even might save, event organizer might even save costs on um, knowing exactly what goes on at where, and therefore saving money on things that no one is using.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Opportunity to make things more cost efficient and just efficient in general in terms of how things flow at events. Is that what you mean? Yeah. Amazing. All right. So
Right.
I think we've covered all of our questions this evening. And honestly, Charles, it has, as always, been an absolute pleasure speaking to you. As Yes, as Charles mentioned, obviously head over to House of Fitness if you haven't already. Give it a shot.
In Procession Street, Shenwang.
There you go. I'm going to be heading over there soon when it's possible. But yeah, I love that little flex. All right. So thank you so much to everyone who's tuned in tonight. Make sure that you like the Experience series on Facebook. And of course, check out The Hive because we are hosted by The Hive and Hive Life magazine. So thank you again to everyone who's participated. Charles, you've been a wonderful guest. And I will see you soon. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night.